they train all their monks, and people come from all over the world to go on retreat. And my job as a young 21-year-old was to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 50 men who had no sensual outlets whatsoever. It was all just, no movies, no drugs, no females, no phones, obviously, back then. This was like 2000. And food was the only kind of sense pleasure, and it had to be healthy and it had to be vegetarian. So I had to teach myself how to cook using affirmations and visualization. And as a 20-year-old young man who, was still feeling insecurity and self-confidence issues, was still in victim mode from, my childhood. And, it wasn't a bad childhood per se, but as you know, there's a bit of trauma that goes into growing up usually, because parents don't have all the information they need to parent the way that that child might need it. And, my mom was full-time working till, 6 days a week, 12-hour days, and father was in France. So there's a lot of kind of self-love and self-confidence that needed to happen there, which basically happened through meditation, and like meeting my soul and realizing that because I'm made in the image of God, I'm worthy of love and I am love. And the more I met my true self, the less that I felt a need to, prove my ego or, try to have external sources of validation to confirm my self-worth. So that was a really important lesson. And in the process, I learned all about Ayurveda and Eastern philosophy, meditation, devotional chanting, basically the art of happiness, if you will, how to be happy. And after that, I wanted to take that devotional chanting to another, level. So I went on to become a professional kirtan singer and went on the whole yoga festival kirtan tour circuit for a while. And, lived in my converted Chevy Silverado with a camper shell on the bed and a big 8x10 trailer with a speaker system in the back. And it was so fun. And then after that, I went for catering professionally for movies and TV shows. And then I went to massage school and learned all of the maybe like 10 different massage styles from Western and Japanese school of thought. And then I was accepted to be an Ayurvedic massage therapist at the Chopra Center, where I learned all about the healing of Ayurveda from, more of like a health practitioner standpoint. So you have like the food aspect of Ayurveda, but then there's also the whole philosophy of it in terms of like the doshas of the day and herbalized oils for heating or cooling the body and heat treatments or cold treatments and on and on and on. And then, now I'm a private chef that specializes in food as medicine for people with different ailments and special needs. So I really try to get into the medicinal aspect of foods and their supplements or vitamins, their minerals, their effects on the brain in this case, or, could be cancer, could be diabetes. I have a SIBO client right now, so lower intestinal bacterial issues. And the more I learn, the more I think nature is amazing, and the more excited I get to share what I know. And if and the more that I learn, the more that I learn that I don't know. So it just actually keeps me quite humble because there's so much information out there. And I'll be happy to share with you guys kind of what I've learned so far, and I'm still learning. So I don't really think it will ever end. Nature is quite the library of wisdom. So anyways, that's me in a nutshell. Can't hear you.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that everyone on the call is probably dealing with some sort of and somewhat some sort of mental distress in some formation. We all are as humans, and feel like many people are dealing with anxiety and high
mm,
stress levels and depression, and so I'd
yeah,
love to speak a little bit about the different areas that you know about and your relationship with those.
sure. Let me close the door real quick here. Well, I think starting with the basics is really um, important. So I often have to remind myself that what I consider basic information isn't common sense for everyone. So I think that the first step is to identify some really general principles, like, are you drinking enough water? It sounds simple, but most of our body is made of water. A lot of the functions that are required, although many of the functions that our body goes through requires water, and clean water at that. So one thing I love, do I have it here? I don't, it's in my room. It's trace minerals. So I add trace minerals to my water, because when you drink water, if it's been demineralized, it'll strip your body of minerals, because that's what it wants. It's what it's naturally used to, is having a lot of minerals. So it'll actually strip minerals from your body, which isn't beneficial to your mental health or your overall health either. So uh, I like to buy at least half a gallon or a gallon jug glass, and I fill it up with purified water, reverse osmosis, or even distilled if you can go through that process. Add some trace minerals, and then you can notice as you're walking around with this jug how much water you've had. It's like your companion. Like some people have a chihuahua in their purse. Just have a gallon or half a gallon of water, and you'll notice that you feel a lot better mentally. You feel more energy. So that's step one. Step two, sunshine. Are you getting at least 30 minutes of sunshine every day? That's really important for vitamin D. And if you do take vitamin D supplements, make sure that they're fat soluble, so it will absorb into your brain more easily. And grounding. When you're out there in the sunshine, put your feet in the ground, so you're connected to the sun, and you're connected to the earth. We're electrical beings, so we can complete an electrical circuit, but when we put rubber between our soles and the ground, we close off that loop from cycling through, and then we just get supercharged in a bad way with radiation, and that happens from the walls, the electricity in the walls, and the computer screens that we're staring at, the phone screens, and it just kind of builds up and causes mental disturbances. So put your feet in the ground for at least 20 minutes. See, we got water, sunshine, your feet in the ground, sleep. Are you getting enough sleep? And I know that sleep is a big issue for people with anxiety and depression, so you can kind of eat into that. And so that in of itself could be a whole hour-long podcast, like how, and maybe we'll do that later, but getting at least 7 or 8 hours of sleep, and that will help to regulate your hormones. And there's some basic, do's and don'ts. I won't get into like a very long thing about sleep, but some things to do would be avoid high salts, especially before 8 p.m. So ordering food like sushi or Korean food that's really heavily salted, and thinking that that's not going to affect your sleep, is just not going to happen. So too much sodium late at night is not great. Eating too late will make it hard, because your body's hard digesting, and it's got energy. It's converting calories into energy, and that'll wake you up. Let's see. screens, we talked about that. Light will make it hard for your pineal glands to produce melatonin. So you can buy some kind of like light filtering glasses. But the best thing to do really is to just turn off all the bright lights at around 9 p.m. If you can shoot for like a 10 or 10:30 bedtime, and maybe take a lavender bath, make a ritual out of sleep. Go take a lavender bath, put on some candles, some relaxing music. So no like fast music, no action movies, no violence, no, fast stimulating things. So making a ritual out of the evening to really calm down, slow down, dim the lights. And it's a sacred time, for you to just enjoy being alive, enjoy the ending of the day. It's a very sweet thing. Just imagine a sunset, but you making your own beautiful sunset every single day. So you get to have that ritual. And same thing in the morning, going to start easy. Some people just get up in the morning and slam some coffee, which we'll talk about soon as well. And they just go, go, go. And it's like, if you're not nurturing and fostering mental peace, it's not just going to suddenly be available just because you want it, So some of the basics again: sleep, sunshine, water, grounding. What else? Nature. Get out in nature, hike, go for a walk, go to the beach. It doesn't have to be for very long, but we're natural beings, and we need to be in a natural setting, preferably living in nature. We're not really supposed to be in big, busy cities or factories or industrial settings. So if any of that's in your world, that's going to really not work for your nervous system. So either make it a point to get out there in nature at least once a week, go for a hike or go to the beach, or move out of a big city if you live in a big city to somewhere more rural, which obviously many people are doing, jacking up the real estate. Different Zoom call though. That's a different topic altogether. So those are some of the basics, and also connection with people. It could be family if they're not toxic. In other words, if they're not abusive verbally or mentally or physically, and they're supportive of you and your health and well-being, and they want the best for you and they love you, then spend time with those people. Sometimes families, friends, we call them family, and you get to choose your family in that way. So connection like that. And then so those are the basics, and a little bit beyond that, which we'll get into more in depth but I want to put it into the basics because this one piece is so powerful and effective that I'm going to put it as the basics. And that one piece is volunteering to help people that are less fortunate than we are. And once the attention is off of ourselves and our problems and our feelings, our experience, which is a very kind of narrow frame of mind, and we expand it to somebody else's world, it just takes all the attention off of us. And then somehow magically we feel better because we're not thinking about us, we're thinking about them and try to help them. And when we make a difference in someone else's life, there's something that flows through. Mother Teresa knew all about that, and she made a whole lifestyle out of it. And she was very joyful. She woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to pray, and she couldn't wait to get out there and help people. So that makes a very, very, very big difference. I'll put it there in the basics. So that's, if doctors would just check in with those first and be like, are you doing these things? Rather than prescribing anxiety and depression medication, I think at least half the people could just avoid the expense and the side effects. And that would be nice. So that's the foundational piece. And then the obvious piece, with me on here is like, okay, well, that's cool. Got it. I knew that, or I agree, wrote it down. And by the way, I've written all this stuff down. So if you want the notes to this Zoom call later, just ask and I'll email it to you. It's like 8 pages of information. I don't know if we'll get through it all, but it's all important and useful, and I think you'll want to have it. So I don't really do newsletters or anything like that, so you're safe there. But if you want to, put your email address somewhere that I can send it to you, I'll do that. And that's going to include like a list of supplements and where to find them, and then recipes and things like that. Great. So regarding recipes and things like that, there's something that I'm calling a central protocol, and it's got A through maybe E over here. It's kind of like a lifestyle things to do that involve food and supplements and things like that. So A is reishi plus maca, first thing in the morning. So you want some wild reishi extract. You can get it. I'll send it to you. But Ron Teigwarren's Dragon Herbs is a place where you can get the best wild reishi extract in the world. Probably, unless you go somewhere in small town that's where he goes to get them in China. So wild reishi extract and 1 or 2 teaspoons of maca powder, and you just mix well and drink it with room temperature or some tea. Don't drink it cold. I'm sure Jenny's gone over cold and hot many times on her podcast, but you don't want to put out your digestive fire. And so that's plus maca roots. And so reishi has been used by Chinese monks for centuries to aid in their meditation. It's the king of all adaptogens. Adaptogens means it'll adapt to your central nervous system's needs, whether or not it needs more stimulation or more grounding. So it's a really neat thing. And there's a lot of different adaptogens out there. You've got lion's mane and cordyceps and reishi, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole thing. But for this purpose here, for really calming down, you want wild reishi extract and maca root powder. So maca root, it helps your endocrine system. Well, what is the endocrine system? It's the whole system of glands in your body. So you've got these here, you've got some under your armpits. There's quite a whole, how you have a circulatory system, you also have an endocrine system. So the glands produce hormones, and even the ovaries for women, those will produce estrogen and testosterone. And if those aren't regulated correctly, it can get really uncomfortable. So maca root will help regulate the endocrine system as a whole. So that's really great. Great for PCOS. Yeah. It's great for a lot of things. It's also great, for men, for muscle tone. Like if I stop working out for a week and I just keep taking it, I'll notice that my muscle tone is getting enhanced or before working out. So it's great for vitality. It's great for sexuality as well. And just, it helps relationships improve in general, because if you're helping to balance the hormones, then you can kind of just stabilize the emotions there, and that's super useful. So first thing in the morning, 3 squirts of wild reishi extract, 1 teaspoon of maca root powder, mix well, and drink at room temperature with distilled water if possible. And then once it's time for breakfast, and I'm not saying drink this, then go make a smoothie, because there's other things we'll get into after the central protocol that don't involve food or supplements, such as meditation. So for me, first thing after this is actual meditation, which is what the wild reishi is for. But as far as food is concerned, the thing I would have you drink every day is a green smoothie breakfast. And as you know, with that whole digestive fire going out, you don't want it to be too cold, so you can make it with ginger to kind of balance out that cooling factor, and it'll help to kind of stoke that inner fire, and some cinnamon as well. And so this is kind of the recipe, and again, I'll email this to you if you want. So 1 cucumber, scoop out the seeds because they have lectin, which is a poison, and it's inflammatory. And then half a teaspoon of rosemary. Rosemary is, I would say, the most powerful antidepressant herb in the world. So use as much rosemary as you can tolerate. Here I have half a teaspoon. You might be able to tolerate more, but this is really important. And then 1 bunch of cilantro, or half a cup, 1 head of basil, and 1 lime with the pith, and 1/4 inch of ginger, 1/4 inch of fresh turmeric, 10 drops of trace minerals, 2 scoops of marine collagen that balances out your blood sugar. There's also vegetable collagen if you're vegan. And by the way, if you're vegan, please take some vitamin B12 because you're going to be deficient in that supplement. And then 1 cup of raw or golden beets, and with the skin. Those are high in uridine, which fuels the mitochondria. It's like the formation of your cells, which, you know, a lot of those in your brain. And then 4 cups of distilled water. Blend in a high-powered blender, and then drink within 10 minutes so that the enzymes don't die and the life force dissipates. So I know I said that quickly, but again, I will email that to you. And it's really important to have all those minerals, all those nutrients, balancing the blood sugar, the rosemary, you know, that's super important. And then at some point, you're going to drink some goji milk. You probably haven't heard this before, but it's 3/4 cup of goji berries, 8 ounces of water, and you blend it until smooth. And goji berries contain an unusually high amount of vitamin C, and they have 21 minerals, 18 amino acids, and glyconutrients, which help your cells communicate better and have shown to help depression. And it tastes good too, so that's good. I honestly want to write a book about this. It hadn't really occurred to me, but it's really interesting and exciting and helpful and relevant. So another thing is to take, as part of the central protocol, number 4, letter D, is camu berry powder. Very, very high in vitamin C, which again has been shown to be helpful for dopamine. And then for lunch, fava beans, you know, get really friendly with fava beans. So not the dried ones, and not the ones that are too mature. You want kind of like the green ones that are fresh. If you have trouble sourcing fresh fava beans, and the reason is that they produce L-DOPA, which helps to produce L-dopamine, which is part of, you know, being a happy, balanced person. So they're very high in L-DOPA, and you can steam them, add some grated ginger on there to help with the digestion because they are beans. But hopefully they're fresh, right? So you're not like rehydrating them and then trying to break it down. It's a lot different. And then some olive oil, which has omega-3s, which we'll get into, very important for mental health, brain health, and a little bit of Himalayan salt or sea salt, something like that. And you know, you just need 1 ounce. It's not very much a day. And if you can't find them, go to www.riceandbeans.com and they can send you some fresh ones. So that's one of the components of your lunch or dinner. And then watercress salad on the side. So watercress is interesting. It was used to feed the Greek armies before war. They would just give them like all this watercress, and it would increase their stamina and their vitality. And if you're experiencing anxiety, depression, anything like that, and it's affecting your sleep, and even if it's not, you know how much energy it takes just to function and just to cope. It's exhausting to feel depression. And I mean, my reference points are breakups and heartaches and things like that. It's so tiring. So watercress every day, you know, that, and you can also eat it for dinner as well. That'll help you with your strength and your vitality. And by the way, it's also full of enzymes, which is also connected to you know, depression and mental health and everything. And it's got life force, you know, prana, things like that. So that's on the side of your fava beans. And then, for, I don't know if you're vegan or not, but um, salmon or some kind of cold water fish that's super high in fat is really important because of the omega-3s. Our brain, if you kind of squeeze out the water and you weigh it, it's about 60% fat, healthy fat. And that fat, omega-3s and DHAs and EPAs and all that, if we don't get enough of that, our brain's not going to be firing properly. And so you want to be having, some kind of omega-3 and DHA and EPA from somewhere. You can buy them in capsules. I should have just brought all these things in here. But again, I have the list I can email. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, is 2 or 3 times a week, have some salmon or some mackerel. I know you may or may not like anchovies, but any kind of cold water fish that's very high in fat is how they stay warm. That'll be really good for your brain. And then on top of that, some avocado, and that's fat, healthy fats. Hemp seeds are also high in healthy fats, and lemon juice, sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, or switch up the salts. Don't always use Himalayan, don't always use sea salts, etc. Don't always use Celtic. The reason is they have different mineral profiles. So if you want to kind of have a diversified minerals running through your body, just switch up your salts every now and then. You can get some, red salt or black salt from Hawaii, and etc. Just make it fun, make a game out of it. Where can you find the most exotic salt? And also consider that with all the chemicals that are being sprayed overhead, a lot of the sea salts may have heavy metals and things like that. So going underground for your salts where you're not getting all that stuff dumped on your salt would be good as well. And for snacks, cacao beans. So raw cacao beans, they look like oversized coffee beans. They're dark, and they're also full of fat, and they also produce a chemical similar to L-DOPA. And there's a lady who lived 122 years old. She's got the world record for the oldest lady in the world. And she ate 2 pounds of dark chocolate every week. 2 pounds. She died, I think it was like 6 months after her doctor told her to stop eating chocolate. And maybe she just decided life wasn't worth living without chocolate. I don't know. So what you would do with the cacao beans is you roll them in royal jelly honey, and then just kind of pop them like snacks, and that'll give you a whole lot of energy and help your serotonin levels and your dopamine levels. So that would be snacks. And yeah, that's kind of like the central basics of like, okay, what am I gonna eat, but there's more. Don't worry, this is just like a daily thing that you're doing. And what you can supplement that with is we're going to talk about the gut and its connection to mental health, like a healthy gut, and there's leaky gut caused by all of the glycophosphates that we've been eating on pesticide infected wheat for so many years. I mean, I remember eating like Honey Nut Cheerios and cornflakes and all of these cereals that were just, carpet sprayed with Roundup, essentially, and glycophosphate is really, really bad for your mental health and your lymphatic system, which is your body's sewer, so you want to clean that, which means sweat every single day, get in an infrared sauna and get rid of the toxins and the heavy metals that are affecting our mental health and causing depression as well. And with the gut health, what happens is when we eat pesticides and we take, what do you call those things when you get sick and you take we need to give you we need to prescribe some, what are those pills, Jenny, called that you take when you're sick and you get a cold?
Antibiotics?
Thank you, from all the antibiotics. Yeah. So when you're taking all these things, they kill all the healthy probiotics in our body. It turns out that a lot of the serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin, even norepinephrine, that's usually created in our brains is actually created in our gut as well. And so if you're killing off all of these probiotics in the stomach, you're not producing the amount of serotonin, the happiness chemical, and dopamine to like stay even-minded, to be healthy and balanced emotionally. So, I would start with like a 90-day probiotics protocol, like 50 billion. Yeah, mental health crisis equals gut health. Exactly. So 90 days, like probiotic regimens. So they're usually in the refrigerator in the health food stores. You can get like the 50 billion probiotic supplements. And this is maybe kind of gross, but the acidophilus and bifidus and all these things, they're responsible for shaping, your waste. So if you're not having healthy bowel movements, it's a sign that your probiotics are not sufficient inside of your guts to regulate your digestion, and that's kind of the connection. There's if you're not having healthy movements and you're not proud of what you do in the morning in that sense, there's a problem with not only your probiotic health, but also that connects directly to your mental health. So a lot of anxiety and depression is often associated with not only sleep disorders, but also digestive issues. So that matters a lot. And that's when Ayurveda really comes in hot, with like the ginger and the cinnamon, and eat hot food and kind of be mindful of, is it hot today? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to avoid spicy foods and overheat my nervous system. Is it cold today? Yes, it is. Okay. So I'm not going to eat a huge big salad. I mean, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, grounding kind of roots and heating foods like ginger and cumin and cinnamon and things like that to really warm up the body. So being mindful of what's the weather, am I eating in a way that's going to promote my nervous system's health, or is it going to overheat it or cool it down too much? Is it going to cool down my digestive system, or is it going to support my digestive system? So ginger is literally your best friend in this case. It's literally like the I would say like the most important part of Ayurveda, like ginger. And it looks like a person, it's got little arms and feet. And, same thing with ginseng, by the way, which is also on here. Ginseng and turmeric, like all of these things are so important for longevity and health and well-being. So we've got enzymes, contributing to a lot of the processes required in the brain and in the gut. And also, what's my favorite brand of probiotics? Let me see here. By the way, actually, for if you're having trouble with elimination, there's a thing called, let's see here, what is it? I don't know where the anyway, like Health Force Naturals, everything I get is from Amazon or Health Force Naturals is kind of like my favorite source of stuff like that. So anyways, enzymes, probiotics, wild reishi, omega-3s, DHAs, avoid screens, time in nature, things like that. And I'll give you all of the supplements, the resources, the names and everything on here too. It's just like 9 pages of information, and just a lot to sort through. So movements, Anjali is actually, as including a chef, she's also a physical, like somebody that helps you exercise. What do you call that?
Personal trainer.
Personal trainer. So getting out there and moving your body, increasing the amount of oxygen, that also produces serotonin. And so moving around, getting your blood pumping, sweating, breaking a sweat, things like that. So yeah. And then another supplement, which I think is extremely important, is GABA. And so we talk about GABA a little bit. GABA is a naturally occurring amino acid. It works as a neurotransmitter in your brain. And so I'm reading off this paper that I've written for you guys. It's 8 pages. So neurotransmitters their function as chemical messengers. GABA is considered an inhibitory neurotransmitter because it blocks or inhibits certain brain signals and decreases the activity in your nervous system. When GABA attaches to a protein in your brain known as GABA receptor, it produces a calming effect. This can help with feelings of anxiety, stress, and fear. It may also help to prevent seizures. The foods that contain GABA are fermented ones such as miso or tempeh. So what's not in this paper though is that a lot of us are conditioned to be used to stress. When we have dramatic households, or maybe an emotionally abusive parents or two, or a sister or brother, or somebody's just really high emotions. It might be us, growing up, dealing with hormones and things like that, men and women both. It makes us so accustomed to neuroepinephrine, which is the, it's the one that's related to pain and stress, that we think it's normal and necessary. And if we don't have that stress, we actually produce it, we cause it, we sabotage relationships or work or some kind of life scenario. So there's like some kind of panic going on in order to produce unusually high amounts of neuroepinephrine, which feels normal to us because we grew up with that. And therefore we don't feel safe unless things are actually unstable. So a neuroepinephrine addiction is very, very common and very little talked about, and destroys more relationships than almost anything. And what you can do simply is just go to the health food store and go buy GABA and eat, fermented foods. This alone could help stabilize somebody's emotional life and relationships. It's a massive help. So GABA, go buy it and be happy and calm. By the way, different kinds of foods that are high in probiotics, like I was saying before, kimchi, sauerkraut, beet kraut, things like that. You can put them on top of anything, salads, beans, fish, whatever. And then the different kinds of foods that are high in omega-3s other than salmon are anchovies, halibut, herring, mackerel, oysters, trout, and I would say tuna, but that's pretty high in mercury, and so I wouldn't do that. But to that point, heavy metal detox might be in order as well. Like I was saying before, our plants and our water and our soil are being constantly sprayed. Not only the produce, with pesticides that have some heavy metals, but if you look in the sky and you look at, some patterns are very thin. Those are called contrails. It's just a jet going by, and it's just like the steam coming out of the engine there, that's in the fuel. But most of these trails are thin, and then they expand, and they just kind of carpet over, and then they kind of dump all kinds of heavy metals, like aluminum and boron and like things I can't even pronounce, and that will definitely lead to anxiety and depression and just kind of a dullness and brain fog. So part of mental health is, taking um, some type of chelated heavy metal detox supplements, and I'll send you those too as well. And that's, again, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But if there's too much mercury and there's too much um, boron and things like that in your brain, you're just not going to feel your best self. You're not going to be sharp, and you're not going to be able to focus and concentrate and remember things. And it'll definitely affect your mood. Now, why they're doing that, there's lots of different theories. That's an entire rabbit hole that I don't want to get into. But regardless, we don't need that much heavy metals in our bloodstream and in our brains. So that will be really important. Other things to avoid, and this is kind of goes back into the basics. Gluten. Why? Because again, it's carpet sprayed with that glycophosphate, that Roundup stuff. Terrible stuff. Some people are actually allergic to gluten. That would be called celiac. Most people are not. If you are, you can talk to me about that. That's a whole different protocol. Sugar. So we're going to try and avoid stimulants. What's going to spike up and create the nervous system and create restlessness. So sugar. I know a lot of you love these, most of you probably, but caffeine. I love you. I want the best for you. And at the same time, if you're drinking coffee, especially if it's not organic, and don't think that's an excuse to have coffee, you have no business drinking coffee or anything caffeinated if you have anxiety or depression. It's really just going to cause a stress response. It's going to cause anxiety. And then, these spikes and ups and downs, it's not helping you at all. Like get some kava or something like that, or some adaptogenic powder with some, that means like a mixture of the different adaptogenic mushrooms, like cordyceps and lion's mane and reishi, and, put some stevia and some cinnamon and maybe some raw cacao in there. And then, it's not quite as high in stimulants. And you can make it tasty if you want a recipe for something like that. I didn't think to put it in here, but I'd be happy to. So no coffee, boys and girls. It's not that healthy for you. I know that the bulletproof guy does think it's good for you, and that's fine if you don't have anxiety or depression. If you're not dealing with those things, then yeah, fine. There's different reasons to take those antioxidants and whatnot. So there are health benefits to it if it's organic, etc. But for the most part, if you're having anxiety and depression, stay away from caffeine. Alcohol, yeah, I would love an alternative. Okay, I will send that to you, Jenna. No problem. Use an herbal dandelion blend. Yeah, please share that with us, Carmen James. I've never heard of that. That sounds really interesting. So alcohol, that, especially at nighttime, that will disturb sleep patterns. So a lot of people will drink what they call a nightcap, like maybe just a shot of something to help them fall asleep. But because it's so high in sugar, it metabolizes it to energy, and then it wakes them up. And that doesn't do anyone any good. And it's also a hormone disruptor and endocrine deregulator and things like that. So again, if you want to kind of change the state of your mind, maybe get into kava instead. Maybe some like organic kind of kava. There's liquid kava that you can buy. It'll change your state of consciousness. That's kind of what you're up to, and you can also get creative with it, and just add. There could be a whole line of product if somebody wanted to get in there and make kava shots, for example, and just put different flavors. Maybe it exists, I don't know, but that would be a business idea. Kava shots, and you can have a kava party and things like that. Or very simply just put squirt some kava into some water and then relax. So rather than coming home and drinking a glass of wine, come home and take a shot of kava or make some kava. Scary movies, soy sauce, violent movies, fast music, foods that are high in salt. These are things to avoid. aggressive people. If you're in a work or home environment around aggressive people or emotionally abusive people, leave. If you're having trouble leaving, get help, and either a friend or a professional to help you and assist you with that process. Um, if that's the case, then of course you're anxious and depressed. Like, of course, there's nothing wrong with you other than the environment is poisonous and toxic and you need to leave. And that's self-respect and it's self-love, and you deserve to be loved and protected and feel safe in your home. Your home should be a sanctuary, and that could be a whole different book and a different podcast entirely, like how to turn your home into a sanctuary. You know, think about plants and lights and diffusers and scents and things like that. Yeah. Thank you, Carmen James, for sending that recipe. Somebody copy and paste that and we'll add it to the email. Industrial environments, yeah, we talked about that. Okay, so those are the things to avoid, and the things to enjoy. We talked about a lot of these already. Sunshine, regular sleep, mountain or ocean air, feet in the grass, lots of mineral water, trace minerals. Dancing creates a lot of dopamine. So this is a very interesting side note. When you have bass moving through your chest, it changes your state of consciousness and produces a massive amount of dopamine. So this whole like electric daisy carnivals and, you know, music festivals, or just live music in general, if you can get even your Bluetooth speaker loud enough, or like put it in the bathroom when you're taking a shower if it doesn't bother anyone, and, you know, dance in your bathtub when you're taking a shower and like start your day in that way. Like it's really fun. I did it yesterday. Laughing, so comedy, you know, friends that you laugh with, or watching comedies instead of violent action movies or sad dramas. A lot of the TV shows these days, not only will it keep us up late, you don't want to stay up too late. So I avoid TV shows in general, because it just, they give you 5 seconds to find your remote and hit stop, but they leave you on a cliffhanger as though somehow you're gonna, you know, not want to know what happens next. It's manipulation. It's emotional manipulation, and it's rude and it's immoral, and so I'm a no to being manipulated emotionally, personally, either personally or from a company. I'm just a no to it. So just kind of be mindful of, what am I watching? What are the effects going to be on my mind and on my sleep? Playing with children and puppies, you know, talk about something that creates serotonin and dopamine. Other than volunteering and helping people, which is a really wonderful emotional experience and spiritually elevating experience, playing with just these souls that are just brand new into this new form that's super extra cute and, you know, fresh out of the astral world, so to speak. That's pretty spiritual in of itself. So, you know, if you can find some puppies, play with children, or I don't know, you be creative. You're intelligent. You know, you're human. You've made it this far. You can figure out. Baby goats. Yes, very good, Mandy Griffith. Definitely. And then, you know, we're getting into, as I said before, having spent a whole decade in an ashram or a Hindu monastery, I learned a lot about meditations and peace of mind and happiness and joy, inner peace, all of that stuff. So really taking into account that our thoughts are food, you know, because our thoughts create emotions. And most likely, if we haven't intentionally changed the direction of our thoughts and our belief patterns, they're just going to stay the same. So the same kind of belief system that was in place when you were 13 years old, if that hasn't been intentionally redirected by you or by a mentor or some kind of like supportive environments, those tapes are still playing and they're still negatively affecting your life. So we're going to get a little bit spiritual here. And with regards to affirmations specifically, it's interesting to note that the oldest name of the divine or God in recorded, at least Western civilization, is from the from the Jewish Bible. I am. So when Moses finds the tablets and the burning bush, and he says, "Who are you?" You know, and the bush says, "I am that I am." And that was the first time that God's name was recorded. So I am. So what happens if you follow I am with an adjective? I am happy. I am peaceful. You're actually putting God's name and then what you want to experience. Okay, so in the ashram, which is created by Paramahansa Yogananda, who was author of Autobiography of a Yogi. So there's a book about yoga written by a yogi, maybe the most in-depth book about the yoga culture and the tradition of meditation and yoga. He published a lot of books, one of them being Scientific Healing Affirmations. And the way that he suggested to do affirmations is a way that I applied to myself and actually taught myself as an insecure, nervous 20-year-olds with low self-esteem, who's now all of a sudden in charge of feeding 50 full-grown men who would be pretty upset if they didn't get good food. What I did was apply his affirmation techniques. And what it is you choose an affirmation, preferably something short. In my case, I chose, I am brave, I am strong. And I would just repeat that I am brave, I'm strong. So I was terrified of these grown men who were a lot bigger than I was back then, being unhappy with the food, And I don't know if you've ever catered for 10 people, much less 30, much less 50 once, but do that 3 times in a row in a day, and then do that 5 days a week. If you think you've experienced anxiety, let me tell you something. I'm not downplaying your experience, but that was nerve-wracking. And I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack every single day for 6 months. But what I did in order to, keep in mind, I hadn't been trained as a chef. I didn't go to cooking school. I didn't even know how to make rice, for God's sake, like I just took on this whole thing. Like my teacher used to say, bite off more than you can chew and then chew it. So I did that. And so what I would do is I would go home with a few cookbooks and I would choose 3 recipes for one of the meals, I'd have to do this several times for lunch and dinner. And I would memorize the recipes. It would take about 45 minutes to memorize these recipes. And then after my meditation practice, which took an hour, I would then go into an affirmation practice for another 45 minutes or so. And so what I would do is I would visualize the recipe and every little step that I read, and I would visualize that while affirming, I'm brave, I'm strong. And actually the second half is perfume of success thoughts blows through me, blows through me. That's part of his a much longer affirmation, which you can do as well in that book, Scientific Healing Affirmations. And the whole affirmation is, I'm brave, I'm strong, perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm sweet, I'm kind, I'm love and sympathy, I'm charming and magnetic, I'm pleased with all, I wipe away all tears and fears. I have no enemy, I'm the friend of all. I can do everything, and so I think, and so I think. And that actually, interestingly enough, is the affirmation for psychological success. So I'll send that to you guys as well. So the more you do it, the more of an impact on it has. So we're going to talk about consciousness. So the scientific approach to an affirmation, according to Paramahansa Yogananda, is to use the affirmation to affect your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your superconscious mind. The conscious mind is the one I'm using now to talk to you, the one you're listening to. Unless somehow this is making you fall asleep, then you're in your subconscious mind. And that's the second part. And the third part is your superconscious mind. If you've ever been in a exalted state of consciousness, that would be your superconscious mind. The way to program our conscious mind is like this out loud. When I did this affirmation to learn how to cook, I did, I'm brave, I'm strong, perfume of success, thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I would just even shorten it to, um, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm brave. Or in this case, if it's anxiety and depression, it would be, um, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm calm. It doesn't really matter, but I am, and then follow it with something that resonates with you. So out loud for as long as you're willing to do it, and then whisper that same affirmation, all while, this is all taking place while you're looking at your spiritual eye. So spiritual eyes point between your eyebrows. If you kind of put your hand up like this, a little higher, a little above your head, and you look up at your hand, that's about where the pineal gland is, or the spiritual eye or the third eye. When you concentrate, you knit your eyes a little bit, you'll notice you're using your soul's kind of will to focus on that thing that's necessary for an affirmation and for meditation is concentration. And while you're doing the affirmations, look at your spiritual eye. So first step, out loud. Second step, whisper, and then it'll repeat automatically, kind of like a dream. Like I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm brave, or I'm cool, I'm calm, or things like that. It'll start to repeat itself automatically, programming your subconscious mind, which is going to be your reference point for your actions. And then, after a certain time, you're going to kind of have a choice. You may not seem conscious, but it's going to be a choice to fall asleep or a choice to get into that higher state of consciousness. And if you can shift gears from that subconscious into super consciousness, you'll feel bliss or joy or ecstasy or some type of exalted thing that you're not used to feeling. Has nothing to do with our five senses or our ego or personality or body. It's a soul awareness. And if you can drop an affirmation in your super conscious mind, that will have a direct impact on not only the subconscious, but on the conscious and the physical world, including your brain. So that's why it's scientific healing affirmations. It's written by a yoga master. It's not just like a Wayne Dyer or an Eckhart Tolle, who actually may be an enlightened being, I don't know. But most spiritual authors are not, most spiritual authors are not spiritual masters. So in this case, you are getting a method and a technique directly from a spiritual master. So it's a lot more powerful than most things you're going to read about. So affirmations done correctly, because a lot of people say, well, I try affirmation, it doesn't work. Well, did you program your subconscious and superconscious mind? No. So the more you do it, the more feeling and more will. So time and feeling and concentration, out loud, whisper, and then mentally say it while looking at your spiritual eye, and go through those conscious, subconscious, and then bam, super conscious states. That's how you do an affirmation, and that's how you affect your consciousness. So other than volunteering and helping others and eating the right foods and the right supplements, programming your mind to think the right thoughts and realizing that there's more than just your conscious mind, that most of our consciousness is actually subconscious mind. And then beyond that, that whole made in the image of God thing is accessed with the super conscious mind. So affirmation. Next is, of course, meditation. And why? By now you all know why, but real quick, if you have restless thoughts, it's going to overstimulate your nervous system. And when your nervous system is overstimulated, it produces misery and depression, and most specifically anxiety. So learning to calm the mind with a technique that actually works. And a lot of people will just sit and just try to be and not think, and that's ridiculous. I mean, you need some kind of anchor to focus the mind on, whether it's a mantra or an affirmation, or not an affirmation, or watching the breath, and then Yogananda's specific mission on earth was to teach Kriya Yoga. So how to use the breath to go up and down the spine to kind of withdraw all the energy from the central nervous system, or from the limbs, from the, the nerves that are out here and the muscles, how to kind of draw all of that current into your spine and then bring it up into your heart and up into your spiritual life, so you can feel love and feel bliss and wisdom and calmness and peace. So the yogis in India, they've been doing this for thousands of years, and we're a very young country. We're not even 300 years old, and we're just now kind of dipping our toe into these things that the Chinese and like Tibetan masters and Buddhist masters and yogis as well, the Hindu yogis, have been doing for a really long time. So we have all the information that we need. You just have to consider applying and learning things that are not part of our childhood education system or our parenting culture. It's different, it's weird, it doesn't feel safe, but it works. It's the East's contribution to the West is peace of mind. So get with that, And of course, Ayurveda, the science of life, the right foods, and Jenny's kind of got you on that one. So if you want, meditation techniques that I would personally recommend, it's absolutely selfrealizationfellowship.org. Sign up for the lessons and they'll send you all of the meditation lessons and the techniques and things like that. They work. I've studied a lot of other teachings from different places, and usually they'll just kind of tell you the same mantra or chant, Sanskrit kirtan, which is great, devotional chanting. I mean, Christians do it too. Every religion sings. So of course, sing and dance, absolutely. And do all those things that are obviously going to make you happy. But learn to calm your thoughts, learn to calm your mind with meditation every day. Literally, I get up and brush my teeth. I might take the maca reishi thing, calm down, assist myself or not, and then meditate. I do not allow myself to get distracted or busy with anything else. And what happens when I allow myself to do anything else than meditate first thing in the morning is that thing leads to another thing, which leads to another thing. And it's almost as though there's a conscious, willful force that wants to rip me away from meditation so that I stay restless. Believe me, if I don't meditate in the morning, I don't have a great day. I have a great day 99% of the time because I consciously and intentionally fill my mind with serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin and positivity. And I program my brain for success and harmony and happiness and grace. And I pray and I ask for support. I don't do this alone. There's no need to, there's no need to. Either it's true that there's a legion of guides and angels around me and, the divine that I can access. And if that's not true, then I'm using ancient technology of breath and calming down my thoughts to consciously produce serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin and GABA and all of this stuff by myself. Either way, I have a great day, and I really hope you guys do the same. So, yeah, if you guys have anything to say or questions, I can try and answer that.
I'd love to see if anyone has any questions. I had a bunch of questions like throughout, and now I'm like, what were those questions?
Well, before we get to kind of show you guys some supplements, this is called PS100. This helps to heal the endings of your dendrites or the neural connections. So taking this before bed helps to kind of restore the neurons and helps to promote really deep sleep, which is really nice. And then if you're too, if your adrenals are shot from stress or I should just say life, there's this company called Cytozyme, you know, Cytozyme. And then there's adrenal supplements by Gaia, which have a lot of tulsi or holy basil. That's really good for adrenals. Of course, sleep is extremely good for adrenals. And so is infrared sauna, biomat, any kind of infrared heat will help to restore your nervous system. Adrenals, yeah. So I've got that, and I'll send you a whole list. Let me see if I've missed anything here.
Carmen has a question. She says, do you recommend taking daily vitamin supplements in the morning before eating or with breakfast?
They'll tell you on the bottle if you should do it with eating or not. And if it doesn't say to eat with food, you can take it whenever. Just be mindful that sometimes if you eat too many vitamins at once, it'll overtax your liver and maybe give you a stomach ache.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually kind of spread it out. I'll take a few kind of basic things. Like I like to take vitamin B complex, which, by the way, thank you for asking that question, because that's extremely important, especially for if you're going through your cycle or your moon or something like that, and you're losing blood, you're going to have a lot of stress, and that vitamin B will help to promote energy creation through your adrenals, and it's also connected to your liver as well. So every day I take like 2 or 3 vitamin B complex, and instead of coffee, because I know about 3 p.m. I'm going to have that dip of energy, so I time it knowing that if I take vitamin B complex 4 hours before I need energy, then exactly when I need it will be when I kind of have the most amount of energy during the day. It's my favorite supplement by far. It's a vitamin B complex. 4 hours later, instead of an energy drink or coffee like that, I just know that it's going to come right when I need it. And it's pretty amazing. So that's really good. Let's see, one of the recipes that's really fun as well, high in omega-3s as well, is this pumpkin seed milk. So like 2 teaspoons of maca powder and 4 teaspoons of water, 1 drop of organic stevia, pinch of sea salt, a few drops of vanilla, or like scratch a little bit of a vanilla bean, blend it until smooth, and you can put some maca powder in there as well to help, again, regulate your endocrine system, and again, the glands regulate the hormones, especially your ovaries and things like that, which regulate estrogen and testosterone, and those aren't functioning correctly. It's just unnecessarily difficult of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And I want to say, by the way, that if you are a woman, I just want to say as a man that I honor and admire and acknowledge how strong you have to be and how strong you are to, work and interact with all the duties and responsibilities of your life, all while having to deal with these hormone fluctuations on a monthly basis. Like, I don't think you are acknowledged enough for how much strength is required to go through that. So at least you heard it from me. I understand. And women are badass. Says what he says. Definitely.
Wow. Thank you so much, Prem.
You're welcome.
That was really beautiful. Yeah, harping on the cyclical nature of life. I feel like your the 5 first things you talked about, and everything, really all aligning with living in with the circadian rhythm, right? And just living in cycles with nature. And a lot of this is pairing with that, which I think is so talked about in Ayurveda, right? And when we can live in unison with nature, we really are going to function and feel and be less stressed. I love all these things, especially the goji milk. I'm like, oh, I'm making goji milk. So many different things I've heard. Really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that rhythm you said, and how there's the sunset and the sunrise, and that we get to design our life however we want. We can create our own personal rituals for the morning and for the evening that help to bring a like a sacred element into the experience and honor our nervous system. Like, how do we gently support everything coming online with the supplements and the right foods, but also the right thoughts, but also like the right mindfulness, that being restless is kind of the thing to avoid. So how do I stay calm? Actually, I'm going to leave you with one golden nugget that'll save you, everybody. If the goal is to have less frequency of thoughts, you want to avoid that. Thought. If that's the goal in order to promote peace and well-being and harmony, and we know that Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, all those things are good, then how do we maintain that peace of mind when life starts throwing curveballs at us and people start being difficult? So the way to do that, there's a story of a young novice meditator who came to a yoga master, and the yoga master gave this student an exercise. And he says, take this oil lamp and go through all the rooms of the palace and try not to spill a drop, and then come back and report to me on what you saw. So the young man goes around with his oil lamp. It's filled to the brim. He's careful. It takes an hour to not drop any of the oil onto the floor. He says, Master, I've returned successfully. And then the master says, good. Now tell me, what did you see in all the rooms? Describe the rooms to me. And he says, well, Master, I didn't look at the rooms. I was just focusing on not spilling a drop. And the analogy here is a drop of your peace. You've spent time doing affirmations, taking the right supplements and meditation. So you put all this peace of mind, stillness. You try not to drop any peace out of the consciousness, the container of your consciousness. So he says, no, go back and do it again. And this time, look at the rooms and pay attention and remember what you saw without spilling a drop, and then come back to me. So the student goes back again, and this time it takes a little longer, it takes twice as long. And he takes note of all the furniture and the wood and the statues and the, idols and whatnot. He comes back and he's like, okay, Master, I've successfully accomplished your task. And then he says, great, now describe the rooms to me. So he does, and the master's pleased. And that's the how to do that is what I'm going to share with you. And the how to do that is breathing, using your breath as an anchor point throughout the entire day. There's no reason why we can't be breathing consciously and slowly throughout the entire day while we're working. We'll be typing or driving, brushing our teeth, taking a shower, making food. So what does that look like? So keeping the heart rate calm and slow. How do you do that? So just inhaling through your breath slowly, and then out of your mouth. You did that with me. You did that once, and it felt great, right? What if you did that all day long? And change your consciousness, change your life. And that the breath is an anchor point to the now. When you start getting into the future, as you know by now, you start worrying. If you start thinking about the past, you feel sad. So that the breath is an anchor point to the now. So use that to keep your heart rate slow and to keep yourself anchored to the present tense. And that's one of the most helpful things and anybody could ever teach anyone. So I hope you use that too. Anyways.
Thank you so much, Prem. How can we find you and
Well, my email is, I will definitely send you those notes, Anjali. You're welcome. So yeah, I do private chefing for a living. So I come into people's homes and make their lunches and dinners. That's different than a personal chef that has multiple clients. I usually have one client at a time. I may have room for another, maybe not. We'll see. I'm always open to talking about it, of course. And then I do catering of all kinds. And then, educational courses like this or podcasts and things like that. And then my passion is I'm writing a cookbook right now on SIBO. So that's happening. And then in the meantime, I release and write, record, and perform positive, uplifting music. So that is all at Prem Music with a K. Anywhere if you want to stream some positive songs. And if you want to look at my website and things like that for food ideas, then that's chefprem.com. And then I've got Private Chef Prem for Instagram, or Prem Music with a K on like the rest of the social media platforms. And then my email address is info@chefprem.com. It was really fun talking about this with you guys. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And, I'm really passionate about this. So thank you for letting me share things that I love. Music with a K. Jenny.
Oh, yeah. Music with a K.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm also available, like if you have like questions or whatever later or randomly, something that comes to your mind, just reach out and I'll be happy to answer those questions.
This was so awesome. Thank you so much, Prem.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to say goodbye.
Bye. Keep breathing. If you remember one thing, breathe and serve.
Love that. Love that. Thank you
Right.
so much, Prem.
Thank
Have a beautiful day. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye, Jenna.